Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. We are finally here at the major milestone of 1,100 chapters. Oda has finally done it. Thank you, Oda, for getting us this far. And we are still not done with the heartbreaking backstory of Kuma. And I can't put into perspective of how many backstories we've had that are just gut wrenching and just so devastating. I think now Oda has outdone himself completely, and Kuma has been the one to take top spot at just the man who has bared the brunt of so much, and he's fought through so much, and to still be going on like, oh, it's unreal. But what a chapter we have. We are finally here, and I cannot wait to dive into it. So, without further ado, chapter 1100. Thank you, Bonney. So, a nice little message just from Oda there. So, it's really nice. It's going to be a wholesome chapter. Nothing's going to go wrong, you know. But cover request to come in this time. We have Sanji and Usopp, a very interesting pair we never get to see enough of together. And it's Sanji just like cutting like vegetables, just like working away, and it's making Usopp nostalgic, and he's thinking about the Usopp pirates. So the three children that Usopp's pirates were when he was on the island, only like 3 years ago at this stage, like they all resemble a vegetable that Sanji's cutting. So it's like an onion, a carrot, and a pepper. So like Sanji's cutting with these vegetables, and Usopp's like remembering his times with those lads. It's just a nice little moment, nice little wholesome moment, as is the rest of this chapter, surely. Well, where we last left off, we had Kuma arriving at the new Egghead, or what will be Egghead. It's Lab 8 currently, but is becoming the new Egghead. It just needs a bit more development. So at the moment, it's still a winter island. It's covered in snow, but we know that in current story, Vegapunk can basically terraform the whole island to whatever he desires it to be, and we see it as this like sunny, tropical, warm, temperate place. But we have a returning young man of Admiral Kizaru. You know, he's just chilling there in his pinstripe suit, looking like a mafia boss, with his like fedora on, and he's just sort of leaning down and he's conversing with Vegapunk because at this point they are probably old friends, or they've got a bit of a tete-a-tete. You know, they're just catching up, and he's like, sorry, here on business, but it's cold. This is a far cry from Punk Hazard. So at the time of this, Punk Hazard wasn't it was just a wasteland, or maybe not just been a wasteland, because Akainu and Akiji haven't had their fight yet to basically destroy half the island. But it was like Vegapunk's like, the future is going to be born here. You know, my head is flowing with ideas. You've got. I'm gonna basically sort this island out. And Kizaru is explaining, and he's like, look, I'm just surprised you missed it. You know, you really should have checked every nook and cranny of this place, because we've been watching. And it cuts to a little panel of just surveillance transponder snails, like one's like up on a pipe. So obviously explaining that they have been watching Vegapunk from the start, specifically the world government, and even more specifically St. J. Garcia himself. They have wiretapped and bugged this entire place. And Vegapunk's like, all right, yeah, okay, you got me. And we see a shot of the Marines who've came with Kizaru, and we see a young Drake before his pirate days, before he becomes then a member of Sword. This is young Drake. So it's a nice little like character nod that he's there. But like they're just doing their job, they're just waiting on the island to freeze him. And we see in the room Kizaru, Kuma, Vegapunk, and on Transponder Snail, St. J. Garcia Saturn. And they're all discussing the dilemma that Vegapunk has presented. That, however irrelevant the understanding is and whatever the situation is, that he has got currently a man who is a pirate with a 296 million bounty on his head. And they're saying they can't just ignore it. And whether he pleads ignorant or whether it's just he doesn't care that the world government know about it or not, they're saying, look, we can't let this fugitive's face be the face of this clone program you have. Yeah, it's out the question. It would be an affront to the Navy's reputation. Like, already, like, pirates are like ever growing and causing more mischief and doing all sorts of shenanigans. And CJ Garcia Saturn's like, well, I have ideas. Stipulations more for how we can deal with this with some decorum and honour. So he's really being the politician now, and we're seeing his really malevolent side come out. So, stipulation number 1. Kuma is required to join the 7 warlords of the sea. We know this happens. Nothing strange about that. Just join the warlords. Warlords hold, at this time in the story, a position of their bounties are frozen. They operate under the Navy's directions. Well, none of them operate under the Navy's directions, but they sort of do some stuff in their own way. But we know that all of them are just either lazy or Dofi's corrupt and Mihawk doesn't give a shit. Boa just lives on her island. Crocodile's trying to take over Alabasta. Yeah. But it's kind of clever because Garcia goes on to explain. He says that a few days ago, a rookie actually took out one of the old warlords, and it was a rookie, just a throwaway rookie named Ace. Who's that guy? He's just some rookie. He's not going to have any bearings on this story or any relevance at the time. Okay. Ace takes out one of the warlords. Fair dues. But Garcia is saying that the pirate world is now in turbulence and they need to calm the seas a bit. And they said that Kuma, in his current prestige and his tyrant name and his current bounty, holds some weight in pirate world, so he's a good choice. Second condition is that he is to undergo procedures to become a human weapon for the Navy. We know this to be true. We know that Kuma goes under modifications. He becomes the cyborg we know him as in current story. This is one of the stipulations, so this is where it's happening. And Kuma's like, right, so you're gonna modify my body. And Garcia's talking and Vegapunk's listening. And Vegapunk so far hasn't really said much. And CJ Garcia is basically saying, look, you already have the traits to be an effective warlord. You could do it from now. You'd be great. However, you would become a paragon of fear, and all of pirates would just be really afraid of you because of your received enhancements. You'd be really feared. And at this point, Kizaru just chips in yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's chip in there. Why not? It's Vegapunk was just can it already. Just cut it out. And then Garcia still calm, cool, relaxed cucumber over here, just right. You see my point though. So, you aren't like other pirates, Kuma. We're aware of your history with the Revolutionary Army. Yours is a bit of a different story. So, our final stipulation, our final precaution, should you say, because what we don't want is for you to turn your power against us in the future. So, the final condition, you must agree to give up your free will and individuality. And we've got that like intimidating look from Garcia. He literally, the only time his face appears in this chapter, and he's just like, oh, he says it with such vibrance. Vegapunk is already like, this man must be just a really cool, like, again, chilled scientist. He loves making stuff. He loves trying to improve the future and build this future he wants. Talks about free will and removing himself, and like Vegapunk loses it, and he just like rips into this Goro. So he doesn't care if he is one of the five elders. He is like, you're saying that you want to kill this man and basically just make him a robot. Yeah, we'll make him a cyborg, but you remove the free will and individuality. He is nothing but a robot. Is this because none of the other warlords actually like follow orders? Vegapunk's like, do you expect me to kill this man? And Garcia Saturn again, just like, chill. You're a military scientist, like, you have no right to talk back. Oh, puts him in his place. Just, yeah. But he says these are the conditions that must be met for this criminal if he wishes to save his daughter. And Kuma's like, well, it's a small price to pay for how expensive and difficult things are. That we know this procedure is going to require a lot of money and a lot of backing. And he's like, these procedures would be otherwise like too much. And J. Garcia is like, I have no obligation to help this girl, but these are the conditions. It's the only way we'll allow it. Vegapunk is like, I'm not gonna do this. Like, I'm not gonna go through with murder. And then Kuma's like, please do it. I've been worrying this whole time. I thought it was impossible for Bonney to be saved, but I'm just so grateful. I will happily accept any fate so long as Bonney is cured. And Kuma's like smiling, but just in tears. He is overjoyed. Regardless of whatever St. J. Garcia was said, like, St. J. Garcia literally could have said, you have to basically swim out to sea with your devil fruit and just disappear. He'd have done it. St. J. Garcia could have given him any fate. At least in this one, he stays alive, but becomes a robot. But we see a shot of Sentomaru and like Bonney running around. She's oblivious to all this, and they start to discuss, right, what's the timeline of this? How long is it actually going to take to modify Kuma to cure his daughter? What's it looking like? So Vegapunk explains, to cure Sapphire Scales, it will take 6 months of the stem cell transplant, but then an extra year on top where she must not be exposed to natural light. So a year of recovery somewhere away. It's like, okay. So a total about a year and a half. That's all right. Kuma's, however, his modifications will take at minimum 2 years. So he'll see through Bonnie's treatment, and then after 6 more months, he is full robot, no sentience, no free will. And all Kuma can think about is that she will actually be cured by the age of 10. So his mind is on just saving Bonnie. Nothing else is bothering him. See, Jay Garcia, though, is trying to assess whether he can trust that Kuma will follow through with this. He's saying, like, look, your daughter is the only leverage here. What obligation do you have to follow through once she's cured? And he's like, look, I have no intention of running. You cure Bonnie, I will see through the treatment. And he's like, be that as it may, the world government will have to take custody of Bonnie when the treatment's complete to ensure you see it through. She'll be free when you followed through and the erasure of your personality is complete. And it was like, look, that would mean that Kuma will never get to see Bonnie after she's cured. Garcia's like, yeah, correct. His modifications will commence immediately as an ongoing process. And when he starts his tenure as a warlord to help the government of the seas, he will be forbidden to ever see Bonney again. You know, if there is a hint of defiance from anyone now, I guarantee that Bonney will spend the rest of her life as a slave. And Kuma like panics. He's like, look, I will never see her, I swear. One request. The only thing I like beg is that you don't tell Bonnie about what is happening here. She can't know the truth. She's too young. She can't be like she can't know she's being a hostage. Yeah. I don't want her to wake up like healthy when she's done from her surgery in some government facility. Yeah. Take her back to Sorbet and you keep watch on her there in the church. You know, if you can grant that one single request, I promise I will never seek her out, and I'll obey without question. Garcia's like, very well. You know, it makes no difference where she is, as long as the government is overseeing it. So, looks like we've got an interesting 2 years ahead of us then. And he just cuts out and he's gone. Woo! Kuma comes out and explains to Bonnie that for the next 6 months, this is where they're staying on New Egghead or Lab 8 at the time. And we can see Sentomaru's there, and she's like, "Oh, like amazing, we get to stay. Look, oh, this weirdo Sentomaru, by the way, like we're having so much fun." And he's just like, rude. But yeah, they're talking about how this place doesn't have any windows. It's a windowless room. It's great for like Bonnie to just run around and she can have so much fun here. Like, it's great. But you got to be careful. There's some dangerous gadgets around. Like, no funny business. And we see a shot of Vegapunk at his desk, just furiously scribbling away, like papers flying everywhere. His brain is overflowing. He's having a brainwave. You know, he needs to write everything down he's thinking in this moment. His desk catches fire. Like, there is flames coming off the table as he's writing away. And he's like, I'm just so short-handed. You know, it's man. I wish I had, like, 5 more of me. He's like, if only there was someone that could eat, that could use the toilet, I'd never have to stop working. So we see this as the moment where Vegapunk gets his ideas for a satellite, which is pretty cool. But I wonder if this is one of his after effects of his devil fruit, because he has so much information in his head that when he like gets into a flow state, and he starts writing ideas down, he just is rattling them off. He just can't stop. The ideas come to him and he's working through, and then he breaks. He can't just stop after one. Like most scientists maybe. But we see that procedures begin. Kuma is hooked up to wires, and we can see he's got those interconnected parts on his shoulder plates, and just everything's connecting up, and looks tough. And we see next to him as well, Bonnie's getting hair treatment, being looked after. And there is just that cute montage now with, people having fun at Egghead, and then more tests, and then there is a really sweet drawing that Bonnie's done of Kuma, a child drawing she holds up of just his face and his curly locks, and she just writes daddy under it. It's just super sweet. Amongst all the pain Kuma's going through to undergo this transformation and all the stuff, we see a cargo ship turn up, and this cargo ship is the Umit, so one of the underworld bosses cargo fleet, bringing resources to New Egghead, because as it's working over these 6 months, it's becoming what Egghead turns into be. It's under construction and they're building it up. So Kuma and Bonnie were there as it was becoming the Egghead we see today, the initial constructions of it anyway. And we see that they have a lovely pizza party, because who doesn't want a pizza party? That just sounds so cool. And we can see there's the beginnings of Vegapunk's robots helping out and serving drinks. And we see that this whole time as well, Kizaru's here. Like, I don't think Kizaru leaves at any point. He is like assigned to like watch over, or at least he must come back and visit because he's here for the pizza party. He's spending time with them all. This actually puts in some perspective of how hard this actually is for Kizaru in the current story. Because he talks about how they're old friends, he talks about how hard this is. He doesn't want to go through with it, but orders are orders and he has to. Man must be suffering right now because seeing him here, he looks so happy. They even all do the dance, the Nika dance, with the heartbeat drum, and they're all dancing away. Vegapunk, Bonney, Kuma, Kizaru, Sentomaru, they're all dancing away. Like, it looks so cute. But unfortunately, half a year passes and the result's good. Bonnie's treatment has worked. 1 year and she will be cured. And Kuma, at this point, is in the pacifista jumpsuit and has the little hat with like the bear ears on. He is becoming the robot we know. And Kuma's still sentient. He's like, thanks Vegapunk. I really appreciate it. Like, I can't thank you enough. And they return to the kingdom of Sorbet. And they return to the church, and we see that Bonnie is like all better, and she says, I only need a year and I can be outside again. And all the elderly are like, that's fantastic news. We can't wait for you to like finally be better. And we see that the Queen Dowager Connie arrives and she takes charge to look after Bonnie. She'd be happy to look after Bonnie. She's a grandmother to Bonnie at this stage. And Kuma's like, I'm grateful. Like, I'll leave her in your hands because at the end of the day, I'm still a pirate. It won't be good for the kingdom if I stay here like for a long time. And he says, look, I'll be back for you in a year's time. I'll write tons of letters. Don't worry about me. But the next time I see you, we will set sail and reach the horizon. She's very excited, and we see that the conversation is interrupted by a CP agent number 8. Cypher Pole number 8, Intelligence Agent Alpha. This woman nurse steps on in and it's like, right, Kuma, you can leave the rest to us. We'll look after. And Kuma was just in a daydream, like he'd really love to set sail with Bonnie and see everywhere. But she's like, I'm here to make sure like Bonnie's recovery is, looked after. She's safe, she's monitored. And everyone's like, wait, what are you doing outside? And they are next to the church already building like structures that will be their accommodation, but basically they're locking the church in so that they have full control. And we see the Cypherpole agent like pull Kuma aside and it's like, don't forget, a child's life is very fragile, and she like crushes something in her hand and it's like, look, I understand them. I'm not gonna come back. And the last thing Kuma does is walk up to Bonnie, gives her a little pat on the head and says, thank you, Bonnie. I'm so glad you were born. And off he goes, waves them all off. The pirates of the world were utterly shocked when the infamous tyrant Kuma suddenly became an obedient warlord of the sea. So we see the reaction now of the other warlords at the time. We see that Dofi is there, like, oh, the tyrant, another villain has like come to play. This should be fun, and he's laughing away. What a guy! I hope Dofi does come back in the main story. I think there's a lot more to explore with him and what he's got. We obviously know Crocodile is there, and we see Nico Robin in her old attire, like reading the paper, and Crocodile's like, look, have you seen what the paper's saying? What you think about it? And he's like, I couldn't care less. Couldn't care less. She's trying to question him. Really don't care, We've got other things to deal with, at Rainmaker ship, we still got to take care of those idiots. We see that Mihawk is just like stoically like sailing on his little thing, reading the paper, with an explosion behind him. That's the only shot of Mihawk we get, but sums him up. We see Alvida having a moment here with young Kobe, saying like, look, he looks as big as Whitebeard, do you reckon, he's stronger than me? And he's like, oh no, you're stronger, Alvida. Of course, Miss Alvida, you're stronger. And then we see Ace. And he's like, oh, Jinbei finally found a replacement. And we see that Jinbei is on Whitebeard's ship. We got Whitebeard, Marco, and Blackbeard all like sat with Jinbei. And it's like, look, you were a person down, It's great that you finally found someone. And Jinbei's like reading the paper, like, oh, he's a former king, This is one of the top of the raiding king that was already in our ranks, The pirate world is like really changing. And then we see Boa just like, this business doesn't affect us. I follow no man's orders. And like we see Granny is just like, like it's essential you actually like follow this, princess, like just so you know. Then we see good old lazy Gecko Warrior just like chilling. We see Perona's like trying to say like, look, this poor palm man, he's a warlord now. He could be strong, maybe he makes the cut. And it's like, oh, it doesn't excite me, like, doesn't sound frightened, does it? This poor palm man. And then we see our shot of our revolutionary friends, Dragon with the ellipsis just stoically mumbling to himself, trailing off, I guess. And we see Sabo and Koala are like reacting to say like, wait, the warlords work for the government. Like, why would Kuma ever do that? Like, he wouldn't do that. But the final pages of the chapter is a letter to Bonney. And we see Kuma's ship, and oh, it breaks my heart. Kuma's flag is the word Kuma, and in the center is the child roaring that Bonney did of Kuma when she was younger at Egghead. It is that face, the curly locks. It is the same picture. Oh, breaks my heart. But he says, look, I'm still out at sea as I write this. I've become quite well known as it's getting harder and harder to sail in places, but I'm doing okay. I'm doing my best to find interesting places to travel when you turn 10, and I hope everyone back home is doing well. But, thinking about you type of thing. Just, oh. And he sends it off with one of the pelicans, and we see that Kuma gets a radio transmission. And it says, Kuma, come in. You've got commands from the government from high up. What is your current location? And Kuma's like, I'm in the East Blue. What are your orders? And on one side, we see Kuma setting sail close by to Fuchsia Village. And on the other side, we see a teenage Luffy running away from a tiger. And that's where the chapter ends. It's Oda setting up that Kuma has like seen Luffy before he leaves. Because at this stage in the story, Luffy's 15? Maybe he sets sail when he's 17. So it can't be far off. Are we about to have an interaction of Kuma meeting Luffy prior to the story? Because I've already seen the talks online and like the conversation of Luffy doesn't recognize Kuma when he sees him at Sabaody. He's like, who are you? So Luffy has no recollection of who Kuma is. But we know that Kuma can modify memories with his power. He can extract a memory. Is Kuma just going to see Luffy and be like, the way he acts, the way he dances, who he is, he's Sun God Nika? Does he find out this is Dragon's son? Does he already know it's Dragon's son? Because maybe Garp's around? this. Like, there's no way Oda's leaving it here and then just cuts to whatever these orders are for like Kuma to go elsewhere. Kuma is arriving on this island. If he interacts with Luffy, it's going to be nuts. Oh, I'm so excited. There's no break next week as well. So we're getting right into the chapter. Anyway, let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for watching.